Now, so far, we've talked about the three pillars of web design: color theory, typography, user interface design, and now I want to talk about the last pillar, user experience design. Now, a lot of people often get confused about what exactly is UX or user experience. And one of the best ways I've heard it explained is through the story of the renovation of a college. So this is a picture of Reed College in the US, and let's just use it as our imaginary backdrop. So this college decided that it needed to undergo serious renovation, tearing down the buildings, building new ones, and completely reform the campus. So they invited this well-known architect who was very respected in his field. He came and he did a great job with all the buildings, and the provost was really happy. He was like, this looks great. But he had one question. Hey, Mr. Architect, it seems like you've just left lawn across the entire campus. Where are all the paths that people are going to walk on to get between the buildings? At this point, the architect says, don't worry, I'll come back in a year and all will be revealed. So in a year, the paths where people need to naturally walk becomes trodden down and the grass gets worn down, revealing these paths that people need. And it's at this point when the architect actually lays down all the tiles and paves these paths. So this is kind of the difference between user experience and design. Design, we often think of having an aesthetic, what we think looks good, and enforcing that on the user. Now, user experience is meant to be invisible. If you have a good experience with a website, it's meant to be unobtrusive and it just lets you do your thing. And it feels like as if everything is easy and everything is effortless. So this is what we're aiming for. And in order to do that, we have to think about, again, 5 things. The first is simplicity. Keeping things simple is always better than making it more complex or more cluttered. So this is a website called Sina, and it's one of the biggest news websites in China. Now, every time I look at it though, I get a headache because it is just so dense. There are so many links and my brain gets overwhelmed and I say, nope, can't do it. So take a look at this alternative. This is Monocle, which is also a news website. But look at how they've managed to chop up the content, provide some interest for the eyes. There's a little bit of dialogue, some images, some videos, a little bit of text. It's never overwhelming. And with that consistent color scheme and typography, it's really delightful to actually read, rather than this experience of sort of hurting your eyes with design. This is a much nicer user experience because it's simple. So whenever you're having to choose, should I make it more complex or should I make it more simple? Always try to pare it down. The second point is consistency. Keep your designs consistent, but also keep the functionality of your product consistent. So here's an example. This is the web page for Xfinity. Xfinity is a really big communications company in the US. And they are responsible for various things like providing TV and providing internet. Here are 3 screenshots from various parts of their website. One is their homepage, the second is their TV offerings, and the last one is their news site. And if you take a look at the top navigation bar, not only do you see that they've changed up the design of the navigation bar between the different parts of their website, they also made it work a little bit differently. The buttons are not all in the same place, the search bar moves around, and that inconsistency means that a user is going to be confused when they go from one part of the website to another, having to relearn how to use your website. If you think about the target audience of this company, Xfinity, a lot of them are going to be a little bit older, right? And having this inconsistent functionality and inconsistent design will really make those users have a bad experience with this website. Now, the next thing to think about when you're designing your website is to take into account people's reading patterns. Now, they've looked at how human eyes track a web page and which parts they look at when they're browsing. And one of the most common reading patterns is what's called the F pattern, where the eye starts at the top left of the corner and then it tracks to the right and then it flips back again, browsing down the left gutter. So you have often things like bullet points or pictures or icons, buttons, they're all on the left. So you can design for this by using the F layout. So have the most important parts of your content on the left gutter. Have the logo at the top and have everything follow this pattern. For example, like this website for BigCommerce. See how the eye is being naturally accommodated going from left to right. Now, another really common pattern for reading is the Z pattern, where our eyes go from left to right and then zigzagging down all the way the website. Now, this of course depends on the type of website. So if you have something that's more sparse with more video content, or if somebody is trying to browse a website a little bit faster, you see them using this layout. And this layout is used pretty famously in the Facebook website, using that Z pattern to accommodate for people's natural reading pattern. So have a think about this. Have a think about how people naturally looks at the page and place your content in that pattern to make it easier for people who are using your website. Now, in today's day and age, it's really important to think about all platform design. It's not enough anymore to just design a website that's meant to go onto a desktop computer. Instead, you have to think about mobile as well. So having a website that scales up nicely onto mobile, what we call mobile responsive, is really important. You don't want a big website that's designed to take up a landscape kind of screen to be crammed into a phone that's actually more like a portrait shape. This looks really bad and it's very hard to read the individual links, and more often than not, my finger's actually too big to tap onto the link that I want. So this is a really bad user experience. Now, this can happen the opposite way as well. So a design that looks much better on mobile, but then when it's rendered on a desktop with a wide kind of screen, it doesn't use up enough of the screen real estate. For example, this is the Facebook's latest redesign of their website. And you've got all of this empty space that's not being used at all, and everything's crammed into the middle. This is not very efficient. So have a think about how you're using the available space and make sure that your website rearranges itself when it's being rendered on a portrait smaller screen versus a larger desktop screen. And try to avoid one of my pet peeves in terms of design, which is having so many banners on your website that show up on the mobile version that your content becomes impossibly small. And even when you're scrolling, it's like you're scrolling it on an Apple Watch or something. Whereas all of this extra content is taken up by warnings and banners and cookies, and it's just not a very good user experience. But on the other hand, don't go crazy either. Don't make your entire website just one part like a picture or a piece of text. Scaling it up massively like this is also very, very awkward, because then I have to just keep scrolling until forever before I can actually read and take in all of the content. So strike a happy medium, and most importantly, test, test, test. Give it to other users. You can employ professional testers to try out your website and give you feedback. Now, if you can't afford that, just use your family and friends and bake some cookies for them, get them to test out your website and start getting some feedback on how you can improve the design. Now, finally, we've talked a lot about user experience and how to get people to have a good time. Now, some designers, though, use the knowledge they have about human psychology and user interface and user experience design to do bad things. And in the design world, we call these dark patterns. So patterns which get a user to perform an action or behavior that is beneficial to the company or the designer, but it's not necessarily what the user wants. And this, I would say, is another form of bad user experience. So let me give you some examples. This is a real life example. Let's say that you walked into Waitrose, which is a big supermarket in the UK, and you bought yourself a sandwich. Now, when you look at it, at the point when you're buying it, it looks like this sandwich is going to be full length from edge to edge, right? But then when you rip open the packaging, you're disappointed when you find that actually all that's in the middle is just air, and your sandwich turns out to be a lot smaller than you initially thought. It is the worst feeling in the world. This is a feeling that I can't stand, when my food suddenly gets reduced in size. It's like as if somebody came along and took food out of your plate. In the digital world, people do the same thing, the same kind of trickery that's meant to get you to perform an action that you don't necessarily want, and you end up feeling really disappointed and really upset. With Amazon, every single time I have to re-click the free delivery button, which I've earned by buying so much product from them. But they still try to trick you using the things that we've learned about hierarchy, for example. Here, the button that makes them more money, Express Delivery, is highlighted in orange. It pops out a lot more. It's a lot more likely that you'll want to click on it. But in all likelihood, you are probably happy with just normal delivery, and you're now tricked into paying more for this delivery. Now here's another example that's actually truly evil. This is a Snapchat ad for some shoes. But what the designer has cleverly done on the advertising is they've placed a 1 pixel curved line on this ad, which makes it kind of look a bit like a hair is on your screen. But when you go onto that screen and you try to get rid of that piece of hair, well, you've tapped on it, haven't you? So the ad takes you to the website, and the advertisers make money off each click. And this is truly a dark pattern because it's just tricking you to do something you didn't want to. Whereas good design is about helping people do what they want to do and giving them a good experience while they're at it. Now, the king of dark patterns is Ryanair. It's a low-cost airline in Europe, which is really known for sort of charging you for every single little thing. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow they suddenly charged you for using the toilet on the plane. But here's what the website looks like when you try to buy an airplane ticket. In order to buy your airplane ticket, you have to go through all of these extra add-ons, including saying, no, I don't want to buy travel insurance. But look at how they've hidden it inside this big drop-down list. And it's not even at the beginning of the list. It's actually sorted alphabetically below Denmark for some reason. And this just makes it so much harder for you to find that option and for you to actually accidentally end up buying travel insurance. Now, the final example, and probably one of the dark patterns that I dislike the most, is these checkboxes. You know, right below you filled in a form, you get these checkboxes, and sometimes the wording is so confusing that I really don't know what I'm signing up for. Like this one. If you would like us to no longer continue to stop not sending you special deals and offers every week, please indicate you are inclined to yes by not checking the box. I have no idea what clicking that box does. I really just, I don't know. I might click it, might not. I don't know what it does. But it's horribly confusing and it's not a good user experience at all. I will bet you that after I sign up, I'm never going to come back to this website again, right? Are you with me? Now, we've seen what good websites look like. We've seen what bad websites look like. And we've even seen what evil websites look like. But it's time to put our knowledge to the test by designing our own website from scratch and applying these 4 pillars of web design to this project. So have a think about what you've learned so far and head over to the next lesson where we're going to design a hotel website from scratch.